our two definitions: aquifer, which is a body of water between permeable rock and impermeable rock, it's groundwater. And then precipitation is really water vapour that falls from the sky, such as drizzle, rain, sleet, snow or hail. Here's a connection between precipitation and aquifers. Firstly, we want to indicate that there's been condensation that has in turn created the clouds. Okay. From those clouds, we therefore end up with some precipitation, which in this case is rain. That rain's going to fall down onto our ground. Now, our ground is made up of two types of rock. The first type is our permeable rocks. This is the rock the water can soak through, and we colour that one colour. We also then have some arrows that indicate the infiltration. So they need to be going downwards from the surface into the rock and heading towards the aquifer. You can see here that the aquifer is then sitting above the impermeable rock, and that impermeable rock is both coloured in a different colour and is also labelled with the word impermeable to indicate that the aquifer sits between the two types of rock. Okay, orographic rainfall. So when we're drawing these diagrams, make sure that we name what it is that we're talking about. Our diagram then should have colours that reflect what it is that it's describing. In this case, we've got a mountain, okay, and we've got a green side of the mountain and a dry side of the mountain, and we have moist air rising, so we have a blue arrow, and we have dry air falling, okay, and we want to mark in moist air and dry air. Then our definition says this, that moist air is blown towards a landmass, this is the part here, and as it rises, indicated by our arrow, it condenses and the rain falls, okay, so here's the rain falling here. We then say that the dry air goes over the mountain, okay? Now, where would we find this? It's southeast Australia, southeastern side of Australia, so that's along the coastline, along where the Great Dividing Range is. And next type of rainfall is convectional, okay? Now, there's no order to these. You can do them any order you like. Again, label the name of it. Here, we've got a type of rainfall that's powered by heat. Okay, so again, we've marked in our land at the bottom. Our arrows indicate warm air and cooler air, so therefore the colours with our clouds and our rainfall in the middle. So warm air rises due to hot conditions, and I've put a sun in here to indicate the heat. And once it gets to high altitude, so we've got quite a tall drawing here, heavy rain and thunderstorms would fall, okay, and these are in places that are to do with the tropics, so places like Bali, Thailand, any of those places that we've already mentioned. And then finally, we have frontal rainfall, which is when two air masses meet head on. Okay, one of them is always colder than the other, so there's going to be cold air and warm air. Okay, and then cloud in the middle with our precipitation here, our rainfall. So two air masses or fronts meet. The cooler air here pushes the warmer air up, and as that warm air rises, it therefore condenses and cools and creates rain. The UK is probably the most common place that we see this. All right, so the three terms to do with resources are renewable, non-renewable, and continuous. And we need to be really clear about what we mean by each of those, because the continuous ones can be seen as renewable resources, but they are defined slightly differently. So renewable, we need the word replenish. So they replenish naturally over a short period of time. And examples of that would be timber and fresh water. Okay, because both of these, we can use them up, and as we use them, they do deplete, but they do replace themselves over a short period of time. Non-renewables are ones that do not replenish, and so they're only available for a finite period of time, so normally a short period of time, and examples of this would be things like coal, oil, or natural gas, okay, and minerals. Now, notice it's natural gas because gases are obviously one of the different forms. So just the word gas on its own is not enough. We need to be able to define it a bit more accurately than that. And the last one is continuous. So these are ones that do not deplete as you use them. So they are always available, and these are examples like sunlight, wind, and tidal energy. Okay, now drawing our water cycle. what we need to be careful about with our water cycle is that we make really clear indications of what we mean. So we want to make sure that we have evaporation happening over the water. Now, does water evaporate from the surface of our planet? Well, of course it does, but the majority of it comes from our oceans. So we want to have our arrow coming up from the ocean, and we want to have that powered by the sun. Next, we want to see that where that evaporation goes to then goes across and condenses. So the condensation is indicated as the movement towards making a cloud. Then from those clouds come our precipitation, in this case rainfall, okay? And we want that rainfall to be falling over the land, okay? Now, does rainfall happen over the ocean? Well, of course it does, but we're talking about one particular part of the water cycle, which is the next part, and that is water landing on the land, and then it runs off either back into that waterway or it'll infiltrate into the ground and into our aquifer system. So we've used colours here to draw our mountains, so coloured pencils, and the colours mean something. So we've got the green grass up here, we've got the permeable rock here, and the impermeable rock underneath. Okay, now if we wanted to label those, we could, okay, but given that this task only asks you to use these terms, you'd be fine just using those terms.